Welcome to the Mindset by Design podcast with your host, the expert Andy Murphy, where you will learn the tips, tricks, and strategies he teaches his world-class clients to give you the skills to dominate any business.
What's going on, Mindset by Design crew, and welcome to episode 281. Hope you are amazing as always. I really do, you know. Hope life is treating you beautiful, and it's kind of adjusting, right? What I'm noticing from talking to lots of different people, and maybe you're the same, right? Is that what happened with COVID and everything, the lockdown did something really interesting. I don't think anybody expected this. I really don't, but it's just how amazing human beings are. Do you know what I mean? We took away people's ability to work, took people's ability to travel, took people's ability away to think for themselves. But guess what everybody did? Got it. They just connected more with themselves. They connected more with family. They connected more with their home. They started to enjoy the simple things of life instead of being on the cog or the hamster wheel of society. And it's amazing to look around the world, and obviously I keep moving, I keep traveling, and just people, different attitudes and the way they're handling this. Like, obviously I'm in the Caribbean right now, as you do. It's beautiful here, I love it, and people's attitudes are just, let's do life, you know? If you get it, you get it. We'll do our best to keep ourselves healthy, but hey, the universe is going to take you out or it's not. Basically, that's people's attitudes here. And they're doing everything they can to continue life. But the thing is, what was their life? Very simple, right? They go to work, they enjoy the sun, the sand, the ocean, and each other. And I really believe that that's the most important thing of life, you know? Now, I say this as I'm striving towards doing loads of different things, but that's not for everybody, you know? It's not for everybody. It's definitely not chasing the money. What I'm building is mergers and acquisitions company. I'm about to launch something that you're going to absolutely love. It's called the 8-Figure Thinker Council. It's a private mastermind, mentor, and training community, and it's immense. You're probably going to want to be a part of that. It's not for everybody, but for those who can get involved, it's going to be an absolute game changer for 12 months, right? Once it's full, it is full. So keep an eye out for that. But what I'm truly getting to is that by people doing all these different types of activities or creating simplicity in their life, what they're doing is controlling their dominant emotion. Something I teach for well over a decade. I've been doing this game for 18 years now. It's a case of we control our emotion using techniques and strategies and unconscious programming, right? But we control our emotion. We control the reality or the world or the perspective that we're seeing the world through. It could be a lens, could be a filter, however you want to communicate it, right? So when we start to understand that the emotion becomes our driving force, then guess what we have to do? You got it. We have to learn how to constantly, 24 hours a day, being in control of that emotion. Plain and simple. So, makes sense though? If it doesn't, I'd love to hear your feedback. I'd love to hear your feedback because I'd love to debate this. If you're a top psychologist, whoever you are, right? I'd love to debate this. But it's in my world and my experience of like thousands and thousands and thousands of clients and being the top performer in different countries and being one of the best of what I do, I get a beautiful perspective on life at looking through so many different types of eyes that I see what the truth is, and I know how to make rapid change in people. And this is the biggest thing. And that's why a couple of weeks ago, I reposted an episode I did a while ago, which was, is music a performance-enhancing drug? Now, a lot of people in the Facebook incubator group debated it, but when I asked them did they listen to the episode fully, they said no, which was quite interesting. But what my point was behind that, there were so many studies and science behind that, but it's a case of, is it a performance-enhancing drug, music? Well, no. But what it does is it activates the chemicals or the emotions inside of us, which then can cause an addictive behavior, right? Or an addictive pattern. And that's a good thing if it's the emotions that we want. Make sense? So that's what that was about. Today's episode, it's pretty damn cool. So, today's episode. So, have you ever heard of the Mozart Effect? You ever heard of that? It's an interesting phenomenon that has also a lot of scientists calling bullshit, right? But I don't know. And this is why I wanted to investigate it so much more, as I really believe music is so powerful as human beings because it's connected to our DNA. Deeply connected to our DNA. It's very primal. It's very tribal. And as human beings, we've got to realize that, yeah, we're only like a little bit ahead of monkeys. You know what I mean? We're not really that advanced. And maybe we're not supposed to be, right? Maybe that's AI, and maybe that's what we evolve into as a human species, and that's very, very highly likely. But what's happening with the Mozart Effect? I've spoke about this in many different episodes, but harmonics. Do you understand? This is why we talk about natural grounding, right? It's being able to connect with the earth. Well, they're showing us these electromagnetic frequencies that are all around us and how they affect our DNA structure, the chemicals, literally us, right? Our emotions. But what they found with Mozart is, I don't think it covers it in either of these two articles I'm going to go over, but there's a whole subculture of understanding that Mozart and that genre and that generation was actually played in a very different frequency, right? It was played in a different tone. It was played in a different vibration. And that's why I had a friend whose son had really quite bad autism, to be honest, and I was one of the only people he actually said any words to, which was amazing. But he had autism, and one of the biggest things that calmed him down, right, was what? Well, Mozart. Now, that's Mozart from a CD. So we have compression of the CD. It's slightly changed in its structure. So, again, the frequency will be differently. But it worked. So what's that about, right? If you put I don't know, somebody else on, it's probably not going to work. You put Post Malone on, it's probably not going to work the same way, right? But what you got to understand is it's admitting a frequency, a vibration. Now, this goes down the woo-woo, and I'm not going to go down the woo-woo with this, although I can. I'm going to cover these two studies because the first one is by neuroscience.com, neurosciencenews.com, and that talks about, is the Mozart effect real, connected to epilepsy? The other one I'm going to briefly cover is basically, does listening to Mozart really boost your brain power? And there's a whole study around this, and again, this is a little bit controversial, as this is actually from 2013 by Claudia Hammond, and it's a BBC article. But it goes into a lot of detail, but the truth is I disagree with it. And that's okay, right? And that's okay. So I'm going to cover those two things, but until we jump into the episode, why don't you just help yourself? In the show notes, we got a couple of cool things. I'm going to be posting the link in the next week, and it's going to be specifically for what? Yeah, I'm going to be inviting people to have an opportunity to come on board with the 8-Figure Thinker Council, right? This is mentorship, mastermind, and training all in one place. And guess what? It's only available to a handful of people, 10 people tops, and that's it. It's interview process. It's absolutely incredible. It's a lifetime's work being put into this, and you can apply, well, today. You can apply today. It's not even live yet, but you can apply to chat with us today about this. So if you've got a love of the brain, NLP, neuroscience, if you've got a love for performance, if you've got a love for your business and your life, then it's time to come and understand and learn how to master your mind and your brain, like exactly like the world-class performers I've worked with over the past 18 years. And you have an opportunity right now. This isn't going to be available for everyone, and I just want you to apply now and see what's possible. So click over to those show notes. Let's have a chat, and you could be one of the first to jump on board with this and get your place at a massive discount. And what else? Click those show notes, apply. Let's just have a chat. This could be perfect for you. In fact, it probably is perfect for you if you're feeling pulled to this right now. The other thing is, get your mornings on fire. Every morning, get it on fire. There's a hypnosis install program right there. It's $7. Okay, $7 to get your morning right for the rest of your life. Pretty epic, right? So it retrains your brain to focus on money different, excitement different about the day, your meetings different, that energy charge inside of you. Well, it's there waiting for you. So that's the world-class performer morning audio. Grab it. What else? Well, I'm here taking on 1 or 2 clients a month. Probably 1 right now. I probably can only fit 1 in. But I'm ready for you. So let's have a chat and see if that's a possibility too, while I've got chance. Sound good? Awesome. So head over to those show notes right now, and yeah, let's go and have some fun. Let's go and jump in to today's episode. Okay, crew. Okay, settle down. Let's imagine we're having a cup of tea or a coffee and hanging out. Do you know what I mean? This topic's so fascinating because I really believe that unconsciously we haven't even begun to unlock our pure potentiality. You know what I mean? And where I'm moving into and what I'm showcasing is more and more about what the power of the unconscious mind. Plain and simple. But people really don't get it, and 99% of coaches in the world, therapists and psychologists and everyone else in between, they don't really get it, right? It's all talk therapy or it's logical steps, but the truth is the language of the unconscious mind, which I've put episodes about before, is simply about one thing. The language of the unconscious mind is emotions, visuals, auditory, so like the way that we talk to ourselves. It's built up of this structure like a movie, right? It doesn't have to be a specific movie. It could be a still picture. But everything you're thinking about the future and the past is made up of these sequences, right? This structure. Every memory is made up of like around 64 different components. And when you start to understand that the memories are the language, or these movies are the language of the unconscious mind, and the unconscious mind is your software that makes you think, feel, and act a certain way, then guess what happens? Yeah, you've got to be in constant control and constantly what? Yeah, you got it. Constantly being able to rewire, train, and update this software. Makes sense? So music is a beautiful way to do this. So what I'm going to read out is clips and bits from a really great article. As I say, it's neurosciencenews.com, and it's the Mozart Effect. And is the Mozart effect real? New analysis indicates that music can help epilepsy. And this is from actually 2020, the 12th of September. So it's a brand new article, right? So when I look at that other BBC article from 2013, do you see the advancement in thinking, right? Plus it's the BBC. And I know the BBC's got a great reputation around the world, but actually it's great with things like that and knowledge and science. But as a side note, being British, the BBC no one likes. No one likes the BBC. Why? Well, that's a whole different story, right? It's a whole different topic. You can ask me, but let me jump into what we're talking about with this article, because I love it. Okay, let's jump into this. Again, my reading's never perfect, everybody, so just go with me. But the summary to this. Listening to Mozart can reduce the frequency of seizures in those with epilepsy. Exposure to the music of Mozart daily not only significantly reduces seizure frequency, but also reduces abnormal brain activity associated with epilepsy. And this is from the source, the European College of Neuropsychopharmacology. So, a new comprehensive analysis on the effect of Mozart's music on epilepsy is confirmed. Hear that word, confirmed in 2020, that listening to his piano music can reduce the frequency of epilepsy attacks. The results of this comprehensive meta-analysis study, which may overturn current skepticism about the effect, are presented at the ECNP Congress after recent publications in a peer-reviewed journal. So, the idea that listening to Mozart may have beneficial effects on mental health arose from early findings in the 1990s. There have been several studies since, but many involve small numbers of people or have been of variable quality, leading to a mix of evidence overall, which has meant that the Mozart effect has been treated with some skepticism by many people. Now, to Italian researchers, now I'll get these names right. Dr. Gianluca Sesso and Dr. Federico Sisa from the University of Pisa have conducted a symptomatic review of the work related to the effects of the Mozart's music on epilepsy. Now, this is specifically, think about this, is specifically epilepsy, but as I talked to you before, it's had the same effect on autism. So to me, and my understanding as we'll go through this, what it's really doing is it's resetting the nervous system. It's resetting the nervous system. It's taking the brain out of the amygdala response, the fight or flight response. That's my initial thoughts with this, you know. So working according to accepted standard methods for analyzing clinical treatment, they looked at 147 published research articles, which they've then evaluated according to such things of relevance and quality of the research. This allowed them to select 12 pieces of research, which they gathered into 9 separate groups, representing the best available science on the effect of the Mozart music on epilepsy. They found that listening to Mozart, especially on a daily basis, led to a significant reduction in epileptic seizures and also a reduced frequency of abnormal brain activities in epileptic patients, right? So these effects occurred after a single, hear that? A single listening session, and were maintained after a prolonged period of treatment. Dr. Sesso said that this isn't the first such review of the Mozart's effect on music on epilepsy, but there have been a flow of new research in the last few years, so it was time to stand back and look at the overall picture once again. The design of the studies varies. For example, some people look at a single listening session, others a daily listening session, so it's not easy to form a conclusion. Epilepsy is surprisingly common, affecting just under 1 person in 100 worldwide. This means that has a significant social and personal cost. Mostly it is treated by drugs, but these drugs don't work on around 30% of patients. So we need to open to other work and therapies. The important thing is that these therapies can be tested and shown to work. And this is what we have shown here. Do you understand how revolutionary this is? Not just for epilepsy, this is the start. Do you get this? Right? So what they go on to say is, the meta-analysis indicates that a period of listening to Mozart can give an average reduction of epileptic seizures ranging from between 31% to 66%. But this varies from person to person and according to the music stimulus used. Makes sense, right? So the original studies on the Mozart Effect used the sonata for two pianos, K448, and this has remained the music the most that has been studied. The K545 piano sonata has also been shown to have an effect. Dr. Sesso said all cultures have music, so it is obviously fulfills some psychological need. The mechanisms of Mozart Effect are poorly understood. Obviously, other music may have similar effect, but it may be that Mozart sonatas have distinctive rhythmic structures which are particularly suited to working on epilepsy. This may also involve several brain systems, but this would need to be proven. Again, do you go back to my point with this? Do you understand, right? The point is, it's the mechanisms of the Mozart Effect are poorly understood. So other music may have similar effects. That's my point, right? So if we understand that music is harmonics, it's frequencies, it's tuning forks, and each one of these can affect our DNA structure, our nervous system, our chemicals, our brain, it affects our emotion, it affects, you get the idea, right? So when I say in the previous episode, right, is music a performance-enhancing drug? Again, this really goes into it, okay? And now, I love this study because the BBC study from 2013, it basically says the opposite to this. It says it was done in small groups, it was this, it was that. I don't think it means anything. And now, X amount of years later, guess what? Yes, we have some more truth. So one of the things this article says is this is a review of research, not the original research. One thing it shows is that we need more consistent studies into the effect of music on the mind. Again, music on the mind. What does he mean by mind? Do you get what I mean? So it really means music on the brain. The mind that's a different thing. So, but anyway, that's my opinion. So that's pretty epic, right? So it shows that the effect of this is absolutely profound, right? Liking it so far? Right, but why were you going, how the hell does that make me more money, Andy? How does that make me a better person, Andy? How does that evolve my beliefs and so I can be authentic and then stand on stage and sell $1 million worth of product? Or you know what I mean? I get it, but it does. When we go back to my understanding of what I've taught for many, 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 many years is that we control our emotion, right? We control who we are. We control our beliefs and attitude towards what we're about to do. Nobody's really teaching this in the world, right? They're not. And when I put all these things together, it just makes more and more sense. Hope it does for you, right? Which is why if you've got the world-class performer hypnosis or you've been through the 8-figure thinker, and they're some of the best hypnosis NLP installs that are available on, like anywhere in the world. But what you'll really see is I've really worked hard on the music progression, right? Because it creates such an emotion inside of us, and you get it. Especially if you've gone through all that stuff, you'll get it. So let's jump over to this BBC article. Now let's look at this BBC article. Very, very interesting concept, right? So I'll just read it in my not professional reading, but hey, I'm doing my best. I've got a bit of dyslexia as well. So you've probably heard of the Mozart Effect, and let's go through this one more time. It is BBC.com. Can Mozart boost brain power? Well, we're not specifically talking about Mozart boosting brain power, but hey, let's keep going. So You have probably heard of the Mozart Effect. It's an idea that if children or even babies listening to the music composed by Mozart, they will become more intelligent. A quick internet search, there's the problem as well, BBC. A quick internet search reveals plenty of products to assist you in the task. Whatever your age, there are CDs, books to help you harness the power of Mozart's music. When it comes to scientific evidence, that it can make you more clever, the picture is more mixed. The phrase "the Mozart Effect" was coined in 1991, but it is a study described 2 years later in the journal Nature that sparked real media and public interest about the idea that listening to classical music somehow improves the brain. It is one of those ideas that feels plausible. Mozart was undoubtedly a genius himself. His music is complex, and there is a hope that if we listen to it enough, a little that intelligence will rub off. Well, maybe. But the idea took off. There are thousands of parents playing Mozart to their children. In 1998, Zell Miller, the governor of the state of Georgia in the US, even asked for money to be set aside in the state budget so that every newborn baby could be sent a CD of classical music. It's not just babies and children that were deliberately exposed to Mozart melodies. When Sergio Della Sala, the psychologist and author of the book Mind Myths, visited a mozzarella farm in Italy, the farmer proudly explained that the buffaloes were played Mozart 3 times a day to help them produce better milk. Right. Well, the debate of that isn't quite proven, but that's for another time. But what this article talks about then is when you look back at the original paper, the first surprise is that the authors from the University of California, Irvine, are modest in their claims and don't even use the Mozart Effect phrase in the paper. Well, of course they don't. It's a scientific paper. Why would you be calling it the Mozart Effect in a scientific white paper? No, you'd be using scientific words and terminology, and the Mozart Effect, as they've just explained, come on BBC, as they've just explained, is a phrase from 2 years later. It's a marketing bias, right? Someone sold it. So back to the article anyway. The second surprise is that it wasn't conducted on children at all. It was a fact conducted with those stalwarts of psychological studies, basically on students. Only 36 students took part. On 3 occasions, they were given a series of mental tasks to complete, and before each task, they listened to 10 minutes of silence and 10 minutes of a tape of relaxation instructions or 10 minutes of Mozart's sonata. Okay, so what they've just said then basically is that study isn't accurate because they didn't even do it on specifically Mozart. They could have chosen a different thing, right? So the students who listened to Mozart did far better at tasks when they had to create shapes in their mind. For a short period, the students were better at spatial tasks where they had to look at folded up pieces of paper with cuts in them and to predict how they would appear when unfolded. But unfortunately, as the authors make clear at the time, this effect lasts for about 15 minutes, so it's hardly going to bring you a lifetime of enhanced intelligence. Again, Mr. Article, you're full of crap, because this is a concept called neuroplasticity, a study from neuroscience. What does that mean, Mr. BBC? Well, what it means is that when you do a new task, the neurology is formed, the pattern is formed, or the neighborhood is formed, the circuit is formed, right? If blood stimulation or the pattern isn't then used again and again and again, what happens is you get pruning. That means the neural nets or the neurology will then be cut and go away. Why? Because we don't want to waste brain power basically using patterns that don't serve us or are new that we haven't developed. Make sense? I hope so. So BBC, I think I've got an issue with the BBC, haven't I? So BBC, whatever, mate. That's why 2013 is an old one. So Nevertheless, it talks about, people begin to theorize about why it was that Mozart's music in particular could have this effect. That the complexity of the music caused patterns of cortical change, right? So cortical fire in the brain, similar to those associated with solving spatial puzzles. Well, I'm not going to read through the rest on this. I will in a second, but that's absolutely, from my world, what's happened. Because of the complexity and the structure of Mozart, what it's done is it's connected such different quadrants of the brain together. So what it enables you to do is think laterally, think outside of the box, right? Think different perspectives. And also what it looks like it's building in there is visual components, right? So we'll keep going. More research followed, and a meta-analysis of 16 different studies confirmed that listening to music does lead to a temporary improvement in the ability to manipulate shapes mentally. But the benefits of it are just short-lived and doesn't make us more intelligent. Well, yeah, that's like going to the gym for a day, right? Session, feeling all pumped up and then never going again. Of course it's not going to work. Then it began to emerge that perhaps Mozart wasn't so special after all. In 2010, a large meta-analysis over a greater number of studies again found a positive effect. But that other kind of music worked just as well. Well, I can accept that. One study found that listening to Schubert was just as good, and so was hearing a passage read aloud from a Stephen King novel. I'm not having that. That's Stephen King model. It. Imagine someone talking about like it, right? When you're trying to feel good or happy. No. I understand, but that's connected to a different emotion. That specifically is a really stupid connection from my point of view. So what they say then, so perhaps enjoyment and engagement are the key rather than the exact notes you hear. I definitely think that's part of it. I think that's a huge part of it, right? Because if you're pumped up, motivated, because of the music's charging you up, then fantastic. But I also think there's harmonics in there. I also think there's definitely musical structure in there. And that's what's creating the brain to expand and grow. And that's what the neuroplasticity. So, but I like this article, you know? I like to debate stuff. So, although we tend to associate the Mozart effect with babies and small children, most of these studies were conducted on adults. Remember, this is the original study, right? And this person's opinion about that study. So, were conducted on adults. Those brains are, of course, at a very different stage of development, but in 2006, a large study was conducted in Britain involving 8,000 children. They listened to either 10 minutes of a Mozart string quartet in D major, a discussion about the experiment, or to a sequence of 3 pop songs. Blur's Country House, Return of the Mac, and PJ's Duncan. Okay, so all of those 3 songs are not the best, right? Well, maybe Country House, that's pretty good. But besides that, that's not going to excite anybody. Once again, music improved their ability to predict paper shapes, but this time it wasn't Mozart effect, but a Blur effect. Okay, because that's very clever, because the band's called Blur. The children who listened to Mozart did well, but the pop music, they did even better. So prior preference could come into it. Okay, I appreciate that. So whenever your musical choice, it seems that all you need to do a bit better at predictive origami, basically creating shapes, that's the scientific study, your mind needs to get a little more active. It needs something to get it going, and that's going to be whichever kind of music appeals to you. In fact, it doesn't have to be music. Anything that makes you more alert just works as well. Doing a few star jumps or drinking some coffee, for instance. Okay, so let's just focus on that. What Tony Robbins teaches is physiology activates the brain, right? So well, actually, it doesn't activate the brain. It does activate the brain, but it activates the nervous system. It activates you to change state, to be in a pumped up, happy, excited state. Absolutely agree with that. The other side of that is, does that work? Does that, Mr. Tony or anybody else, from my experience, work as well if you're sitting to write something really in depth, if you're jumping up and down, pumping your body up, and then have to sit down into a parasympathetic response, basically what? Basically calm, laser focus, be able to drop into deep alpha and below, to go into a gamma wave, to go into flow, right? That's going to be extremely tricky when you're pumped up, right? So I have different methods using mirror neurons to be able to activate those flow states, because I don't think jumping up and down works for that, but it does for some people, right? So so let's go back to this. So whatever your music choice, in fact, doesn't have anything to do with music. Okay, so there is a way in which music can make a difference to your IQ, though. Unfortunately, it requires a bit more effort than putting in a CD. Learning to play a musical instrument can have beneficial effects on your brain. Yep, I absolutely agree. Cognitive science at the Western University of London says that a year of piano lessons combined with regular practice can increase IQ as much as 3 points. Cool. Also, what they're talking about there is what they don't talk about there, but jumping up and down, and music doesn't just necessarily make you feel, increase your IQ points, which is true. But what they're really talking about is maybe it wasn't available or around the knowledge in 2013, but what they're talking about is an intense drive or motivation and a clear focus actually creates the brain to regenerate or to expand or to have neuroplasticity. So it's a different thing. So to finish up this article. So listening to Mozart won't do you or your children harm, but could start a lifelong love of classical music. But unless you and your family have some urgent imaginary origami to do, the chances of that sticking to a sonata is not going to make you better at anything. Okay, disagree? BBC? Disagree. Of course it's going to make you better, because emotion is what we're dominant that we need to control, right? So the emotion does lots of things here. The emotion does what? Well, music elicits the emotion that we want. The emotion creates our world, right? Our beliefs and attitudes to what we're about to do, right? So that's one, what music does. Two, what does music do? The complex structure of music does what? Well, you got it, right? The complex music structure activates that neuroplasticity, so it starts to create new patterns, new behaviors, new ways of thinking, feeling, and acting towards specific things. So that's what music does too. What else does music do? I believe it's a harmonic, and that harmonic, guess what? That harmonic creates a frequency inside of us, and that frequency affects people around us, right? So we can keep going on and on with the music, but this is how powerful it is. Does that make sense? Good. So I want you to go and play with this, practice this, debate this with me, give me feedback, share this with someone, because ultimately, this is a game changer if you truly understand the power of the unconscious mind. So crew, there we go. End of episode 281. Hope you loved it. Hope you're going to share it. Hope you're going to start kicking ass. I know you're already doing that. So make sure you head over to the show notes. Definitely you want to be an early bird in the 8-Figure Thinker Council. This is nothing else like this around. I have researched a lot. This is my formula, mentoring, mastermind, and training. It's all in one, and it's, again, only available to probably around maximum 10 people. It will fill up, and this is a 12-month program, 6 to 12 months, depending on what package you come on, and that's it. It's going to change everything. It's about building you into this absolute limitless version of you over a period of time. I'm going to be there every single time and every single step of the way. So jump in with me on that, apply. That'll be the first link in the show notes. Second link, you definitely need to get your mornings on point. Go and test the power of the unconscious mind and jump in and grab that $7 audio. You can handle it. You can handle it. What else? Make sure that you're connecting with the Facebook Incubator group, as I'm going to start pumping out trainings. We've got a poll in there right now to see what the next training is, whether it's money, excitement about what you're doing, or a transition in career or a product launch. So I can rewire your unconscious mind with any of those things. So what else? Hit me up on social media. If you're in business, make sure you're connected with me on LinkedIn. And that's it. Hit those show notes up. Have an amazing week. And until the next time, much, much love. And oh yeah, 281 times. Why don't you smile for me?
Thanks so much for listening to today's episode of the Mindset by Design podcast with your host and NLP expert, Andy Murphy. We'll catch you next time.